Hi there, students of mine. This is Honors Biology. This is the Cellular Respiration Unit. In your textbooks, if you would like to read about it, it is Chapter 7 in your textbook. Okay, let's begin. Well, this chapter, it's kind of like a reverse of what we learned in photosynthesis. And here's a little picture showing it to you right here. What we learned in photosynthesis is that photosynthesis, one of the primary products of photosynthesis is sugar, glucose, and another one is oxygen. Okay, so photosynthesis makes sugar and oxygen, so food and air that we need to survive. Well, sugar and oxygen are used in cellular respiration, okay, by our mitochondria to produce ATP, energy that we need for work. All right, a lot of this energy gets converted into heat because that's how our bodies work. We're warm-blooded. Well, during respiration, we produce water and carbon dioxide as products of respiration. So the main product of respiration, ATP, it gets used up, but water and CO2 can get recycled back and used in photosynthesis. All right. So cellular respiration, the process in which cells in your body are producing energy. This is the powerhouse of the cell. So we're going to talk about mitochondria in this unit in case you remember back from our cells chapter. Now, which organisms do cellular respiration? Everything. This is one of the main properties of life. Living things need energy. They need ATP to maintain the stability of their body, their system, their cells. So to maintain their cellular makeup, energy has to be put in, basically. So all living things do cellular respiration. Now, this equation looks a lot like the photosynthesis equation, except things are flip-flopped. In photosynthesis, we had glucose and oxygen over here. We had CO2 and water on the other side. So now we've flipped it. We reversed it. Now, what happens in this? Well, back to our reduction and oxidation. In case you forgot, a review, reduction. This is when electrons are gained, and you're going to notice the electrons as hydrogens. Oxidation is when electrons are lost, okay? Lost. So you're going to notice hydrogens being lost. So let's look at the equation. This is what we do. This is how we make energy. We eat food, sugar, and then we oxidize it. And when we oxidize our sugar, it gets turned into CO2. We exhale CO2. The oxygen that we breathe gets reduced and turned into water. Okay, so water is a waste product of cellular respiration, and so is carbon dioxide. These are the waste products of cellular respiration. The main product of cellular respiration, specifically ATP, not just energy, but ATP specifically. All right, these are examples. I showed them to you. I showed them to you in our last unit. I'm going to show them to you again in this unit just so you don't forget about how to notice oxidation and reduction. So these are oxidation examples where hydrogens are lost. Water being converted into oxygen. NADPH, this is from our last chapter, NADPH becoming NADP+. Okay, you're going to see something new in this unit. I haven't introduced it yet, but you're going to see a molecule called NADH and another one called FADH2. They work similarly to this right here. The reason I have not introduced them yet to you because I know you're not aware of them at this point in the lecture. So you will see them later on, and they're going to work very similarly to this. All right. Sugar has hydrogens in it. CO2 doesn't. It's oxidized. So this is us eating food, oxidizing it, and turning it into CO2. Reduction examples, you're going to notice electrons or hydrogens are gained. CO2 becoming sugar. This is what a plant does when it makes sugar during photosynthesis. NADP plus picks up hydrogens, becomes NADPH. And oxygen, O2, becomes water, it added hydrogen. So each one of these added hydrogens and is an example of reduction. Now here are the two equations matched up next to each other. So if you notice, this stuff over here, the reactants of photosynthesis, are products of respiration. And products of photosynthesis are reactants of cellular respiration. So they are flip-flops. I've added ATP to the equation to show you that energy is the main product. In a chemical equation, a lot of the times you would not even see ATP. Just to let you know, sometimes energy is not shown in the equation. I'm showing it to you here, and I made it red to show you that this is the main product. Okay, so sometimes energy is not shown in these types of equations. Sometimes it is. You guys will notice that in chemistry next year. And one more visual diagram showing you how everything is linked. So let's go back to photosynthesis from our last unit. This is the chloroplast. You guys probably remember the light reactions happening in the thylakoids and the Calvin cycle happening in the stroma, all that stuff happening in the chloroplast. So chloroplasts, they take in light energy and they convert it into chemical energy, glucose. One of their waste products is oxygen. That's a nice waste product because oxygen and the glucose, the food that they make, go into the mitochondria. And our mitochondria, in our bodies and every living thing with a mitochondria, they turn this oxygen and this glucose into the products of basically water and CO2. These are the waste products that they end up getting turned into, and those go back to photosynthesis. The main product, though, of cellular respiration is ATP, energy right there. So look, energy in, light energy in, ATP energy out, okay? And then the recycling of materials. CO2 goes back to the chloroplast. Chloroplasts turn it into glucose and back and forth, okay? So CO2 to glucose, do you guys remember? It's adding hydrogens, so it is reduced, okay? Water to oxygen, it's losing hydrogen, so it's oxidized here, right? And then oxygen being converted into water, oh, well, oxygen is now going to gain electrons, so when oxygen becomes water, it is reduced. When glucose eventually becomes CO2, it is oxidized, okay? So it will lose hydrogens and oxidize. So oxidation, reduction, reduction, oxidation, they're linked to each other as you have noticed. So this is just showing you how these major processes, photosynthesis and cellular respiration, are linked to each other. It gets very confusing because you know CO2, water, O2, glucose, you've seen them in the last unit, so it gets difficult for you to, your brain starts confusing the two processes, so beware of that in this unit, all right? And we're going to stop right there today.